The alarm was set for 5:30. Nora was already awake at 5:12. She had been awake, if she was being honest, since 3, not because of a nightmare, not because of noise. She woke up the way she always did now, quietly, completely. Like her body had given up on the idea of rest and decided that existing was enough. She lay there for a while, ceiling, darkness, the sound of the house doing nothing. Then she got up. She did not turn on the lights in the bedroom. She knew where everything was. She had lived in this apartment for 17 months, and she had memorized it the way you memorize a place you are not sure you plan to stay. She pulled on her scrubs in the dark, navy blue, worn soft at the knees. She tied her hair back without looking in the mirror. She had stopped looking in the mirror in the morning a while ago. She could not remember exactly when. The kitchen light was the only one she turned on, yellow and too bright, and humming slightly, the way it always did. She stood in front of the coffee maker and waited. The machine made its sounds. She stood very still with her hands at her sides. Outside, Indiana was doing what Indiana does in November. Gray sky sitting low, the kind of cold that does not announce itself. It just arrives. And suddenly, everything feels slightly less possible than it did the day before. Nora poured her coffee into the blue thermos, the one with the dent on the side from when she dropped it in the hospital parking lot 8 months ago. She had thought about replacing it. She never did. She picked up her keys. She picked up her badge. She walked to the door. And then she stopped. She stood there with her hand on the doorknob, and she did not move. She was not thinking about anything specific. She was not remembering something painful or dreading something ahead. She was simply standing there, in the yellow kitchen light, and for a moment she could not make herself open the door. Not because she was scared, not because she was tired, though she was, but because something in her chest was doing something she did not have words for. A kind of pressure. Not pain exactly, more like the feeling you get when you have been holding your breath for so long that you have forgotten what it felt like to breathe. She opened the door anyway. She always opened the door. The drive to the hospital took 11 minutes. She had driven it so many times that her hands knew the turns before her mind registered them. Left on clear water, right on 56. The railroad crossing where you slow down even when the lights are not flashing, because twice in 3 years she had seen cars get clipped there by trains that came faster than expected. She knew this drive, the way she knew her own heartbeat. Without thinking about it, the parking lot was half empty at 5:30 in the morning. She pulled into her usual spot. 3rd row, second from the end, close enough to the entrance to not feel the full weight of the cold, far enough to have 30 seconds of walking alone before the building swallowed her. She turned off the engine, and she sat there. She did not reach for her thermos, did not check her phone, did not go over the handoff notes in her head the way she usually did. She just sat there. The sky was starting to go from black to that particular shade of dark blue. That means morning is coming, whether you are ready for it or not. A single light was on in the east wing of the hospital. Someone was already in there working. Someone was already in there kneading. Nora looked at her hands on the steering wheel. They were steady. They were always steady. That was something people said about her. The nurses who had worked with her for years, the doctors who trusted her in a room when things went wrong. Nora Callahan has steady hands. Nora Callahan does not flinch. She did not feel steady right now. She felt like something inside her was very, very far away. Like she was looking at her own hands through glass. It took her another 3 minutes before she got out of the car. She did not know, sitting there, that it was her birthday. That is not entirely true. Some part of her knew. The way you know something that you have decided not to look at directly. Her phone had not made any sounds this morning. No messages yet. Her mother was 3 time zones away and would remember sometime around noon. Her time, and would send a voice memo that lasted 40 seconds and said mostly the same things it always said. Her brother would forget and then remember a week later and send a gift card for a restaurant she had never been to. Her friends, the ones she still had, the ones who were still trying, they had probably planned something for the weekend, something low-key, something that would require her to say she was fine a certain number of times before they believed her. She was fine. She was always fine. That was the thing about Nora. She was so reliably fine that people had stopped checking. Inside, the hospital was doing what hospitals do at 5:40 in the morning. Moving, humming. The overnight shift passing things off to the day shift in that particular exhausted shorthand that nurses develop after years of communicating in the margins of time. Nora moved through the hallways the way she always did, steady, purposeful. She smiled at the woman at the front desk. She nodded at Dr. Hargrove, who was coming out of a room looking like he had not slept since Tuesday. She became, the moment she walked through those doors, the version of herself that everyone needed her to be. It happened so automatically, she barely noticed it anymore. Her first patient of the morning was an older man, 70-something, admitted overnight for chest pain that turned out to be severe anxiety. He was embarrassed about it. You could see it in the way he held his jaw, like he was bracing for someone to tell him he had wasted everyone's time. Nora pulled up a chair and sat beside him instead of standing over him. She said, "Your heart was telling you something was wrong. That is not nothing. That is your body looking out for you." He relaxed slightly. Not all the way, but slightly. She stayed 4 minutes longer than she needed to. She did that a lot. Staying a few minutes longer sitting instead of standing. Learning the names of people's dogs from the photos on their phones. Remembering that the man in room 7 liked the blinds open and the woman in room 12 needed the television off. Not on when she was trying to rest. She was extraordinary at her job. She knew this not from vanity, but from simple observation. She was good at reading people, good at being present, good at making someone feel, in the middle of the worst moments of their lives, that they were not invisible. What she did not know, what she had not known for a very long time, was how to do any of that for herself. 20 months ago, Nora's husband of 7 years sat across from her at the kitchen table in the house they had shared in Bloomington, and told her he was leaving. Derek was not a cruel man. This is important. He was not someone who raised his voice or broke things or said words designed to cut. He was a quiet, careful man who had tried for 7 years to find his way into the interior of his wife and had concluded gently that there was no door. He said, "Nora, I do not know how to love someone I cannot reach." She sat very still when he said it. She did not cry. She did not argue. She did not ask him to stay. She said, "I understand." She did not understand. Not then. Not for a long time. After he left, she cleaned the kitchen. She wiped down the counters. She did the dishes that were in the sink. She took out the recycling. Then she went to bed and lay on her side of the mattress and stared at the wall and felt, for a very long time, nothing at all. She thought the nothing was shock. She thought the nothing would pass. It did not pass. It evolved. It became something she carried so constantly that she stopped noticing its weight. She moved to the apartment in Indianapolis 3 months after the divorce was finalized. Closer to the hospital. Easier, she told herself. A fresh start, people said. She smiled when they said that. She became very good at smiling when people said things that had no relationship to what she was actually feeling, because what she was actually feeling most of the time was this. Like she was standing behind herself, like she was watching Nora Callahan go through the motions of a life, making coffee, driving to work, caring for strangers with a tenderness she could not seem to locate when she turned inward. Like the version of her that people could see and talk to and rely on was real. But the part behind that, the part that used to feel things all the way down, was somewhere else. Gone, maybe. Or just very quiet. She told herself she was coping. She told herself she was giving herself time. She told herself this was what grief looked like, when you were a person who knew how to hold things together. What she did not tell herself, because she did not have the language for it yet, was that she was not coping. She was disappearing. One small shutdown at a time. One deflected question at a time. One morning at a time. Getting up in the dark and going to work and coming home and doing it again. And somewhere in the middle of all that motion, losing track of whether there was a Nora Callahan underneath the nurse, underneath the steady hands, underneath the person who stayed 4 minutes longer and remembered what people needed. She had learned this skill, the skill of disappearing into function, very early. She was 7 years old the first time she understood that her feelings made other people uncomfortable. Her grandmother had died. Nora had adored her grandmother. The kind of love that is physical when you are a child, that lives in the specific warmth of someone's kitchen, in the smell of a particular soap, in the weight of a hand on your head. When her grandmother died, Nora cried at the funeral with her whole body, the way children do, without embarrassment, without editing. Her mother put a hand on her shoulder and said, quietly in the way that was not unkind but was very firm, "Callahans do not fall apart in public." Nora stopped crying. She was 7 years old and she learned, in that moment, that her grief was too large for the room, that the correct response to pain was to make it smaller, to fold it up, to put it somewhere it would not inconvenience anyone. She had been folding things up ever since. By the time she was in nursing school, she was extraordinary at it. She could sit with someone else's devastation and hold it with complete steadiness and walk to her car afterward and feel almost nothing. She thought this was professional. She thought this was strength. She thought she had found, by some accident of personality or training, the ability to be moved without being broken. She did not realize, for a very long time, that she had simply gotten so good at suppression that she could no longer find the seam between what she was controlling and what she actually felt. Derek had seen it. She knew that now. "I cannot reach you," he had said. He was not wrong. He had been trying for 7 years to find his way to her, and she had been, without meaning to, without even knowing she was doing it, keeping every door locked. Not because she did not love him. She did love him, but she had spent so many years making herself small, making herself contained, making herself useful and undemanding and fine, that she had lost the ability to let someone in all the way. She had loved him from behind the glass. He had eventually stopped knocking. She did not blame him. This was perhaps the most devastating part she understood. She understood completely why someone would leave a person they could see but could not touch, could hear but could not quite reach. She understood, and she did not fight it, and she did not fall apart. And in not falling apart, she had confirmed without meaning to exactly what he had said, that there was no way in. The morning shift moved. The way morning shifts move. Fast and then faster. 2 new admissions before 7, a situation in room 4 that required her full attention for 40 minutes. A family in the hallway who needed to be told something no family wants to be told, and Nora was the one who stood with them while the doctor spoke, one hand on the mother's arm, steady, present there. She was always there, for everyone. At 8:15, she had 12 minutes before she needed to be somewhere else. She went to the small break room and sat down and opened her thermos. The coffee was cold. She drank it anyway. Her colleague, a nurse named Bev, who had been at the hospital for 22 years and had the particular warmth of someone who has seen everything and decided to stay soft anyway, came in and poured herself a cup and looked at Nora the way she sometimes did. Not with pity, more like recognition. She said, "You doing okay?" Nora said. "I am good." Bev looked at her for one more second. Then she said, "Okay," and she left. And Nora sat there with her cold coffee and the fluorescent light buzzing above her head, and something moved in her chest, brief and sharp. Like a hand pressing on a bruise she had forgotten was there. Someone had asked, and she had said she was fine. And the word had come out so smoothly, so automatically, so without any friction at all, that she had not even felt herself lying. That was the thing that scared her. Not that she was not fine, but that she could no longer tell the difference. She was 34 years old today. She was sitting in a break room with cold coffee. She was wearing the face of someone who had everything under control, and somewhere underneath that face, underneath the steady hands and the competent voice, and the person that everyone needed her to be, something very old and very quiet was trying to get her attention. She could feel it. She had been feeling it for months. A tugging, small and persistent, like a child pulling at a sleeve. Something that did not want to be ignored anymore, but did not know how. She stood up. She went back to work, because that was what she did. That was what she had always done, and she did not know yet that this ordinary Tuesday morning, this morning that looked like every other morning, had already been chosen, had already been marked, that something larger than her schedule and her cold coffee and her practiced fine was already in motion. She did not know yet that she was about to be found. She did not know yet that the tugging she kept ignoring was not a distraction from her life. It was the beginning of it. 14 months ago, Nora stopped sleeping through the night. Not dramatically, not with nightmares or sweating or waking up gasping, just quietly. The way most things happened to her. She would open her eyes at 2 or 3 in the morning, and the ceiling would be there, and the dark would be there, and the silence of the apartment would be there. And she would lie still for a while trying to go back under. And then, at some point, she would accept that sleep was done with her for the night. She started driving. Not anywhere specific, just out, down the empty streets of Indianapolis at 2:30 in the morning, when the city was as close to quiet as a city ever gets. Past the gas stations with their bright, flat light, past the all-night diners where a few people sat alone over coffee. Past the neighborhoods where every window was dark and everyone was sleeping and life looked, from the outside, simple. She always ended up in the hospital parking lot. She did not plan this. It just happened, the way certain things happen when you are running on the automatic pilot of grief and exhaustion. Her hands would take her there. She would pull in and turn off the engine and sit. And the hospital would be in front of her, lit up the way hospitals are always lit up. Like they do not know what night is. Like they have decided that darkness is optional. She would sit there for an hour sometimes longer. She told herself she found it calming. The familiarity of it, the building she knew better than she knew her own apartment at this point. The parking lot where she spent a cumulative portion of her life she preferred not to calculate. But that was not entirely why she went. The truth was something she did not fully admit to herself for several weeks. She went there because it was the only place she had started to pray. Not the way she prayed as a girl, kneeling at the side of her bed with her hands folded and the words she had memorized coming out in the right order. That kind of prayer required a confidence she no longer had. a confidence that the words were going somewhere, that someone was on the other end. She had lost that confidence slowly, over years, and then more quickly over the past 20 months, until what was left was not really faith in the traditional sense, but more like a door she stood in front of without being sure anyone lived there anymore. But in the parking lot, at 2 in the morning, something loosened. She did not know if it was exhaustion, did not know if it was the dark or the strange permission that comes with being the only person awake in a place you know. But she found herself talking, not out loud, just inside, the way you talk when you are not sure you are being heard, but you have run out of other options. The first time she just said, "I do not know what I am doing." That was it. 5 words. She sat there after saying them and felt foolish, and then felt very slightly less alone a second time. A week later, she said more. She said, "I take care of people all day. I hold their hands when they are dying. I sit with their families when the news is the worst news. I do this because I believe it matters, and I come home and there is no one here, and I am not asking for anything big. I am not asking for a miracle. I am just asking if someone can tell me what this is all for." She stopped. The parking lot did not answer. She had not expected it to. But she came back the next week. And the week after that. The prayers, if you could call them that, were never clean. They were never the kind of thing she would have said in a church. They were impatient sometimes, confused. Once or twice they were close to angry. She apologized after the angry ones, then stopped apologizing, then wondered why she had been apologizing at all. There was a night in February when she sat in the car for 2 hours, and the only thing she said over and over in different formations was, "I am so tired. I am so tired. I am so tired." She fell asleep in the parking lot that night, woke up at 4:15 with a stiff neck and the engine still off and her breath fogging the windows. And she sat up and looked at the hospital in front of her, and something in her chest was different. Not better exactly, but different. Like something had been said that needed to be said, and the saying of it had shifted some internal weight slightly. The way moving a stone shifts the water around it. She drove home. She slept for 90 minutes. She got up and went back to work. She did not know then that those prayers were doing something. She did not know that the words she was ashamed of, the impatient ones, the confused ones, the ones that were really just complaints, dressed up as conversation, were landing somewhere, were being held, were mattering in ways she could not see yet. She thought prayer was supposed to sound a certain way, composed, grateful, oriented toward something larger than her own exhaustion. She thought the raw and ragged version she was producing in a parking lot at 3 in the morning was not really prayer at all. It was just talking to herself. She was wrong about that. She was wrong about a lot of things. 11 months ago, a man named Garrett was admitted to the hospital. He had driven himself to the emergency room alone because there was no one to drive him. His wife had died 4 years earlier. His son was in another state. He had a neighbor who checked on him sometimes. Nora was assigned to his care on his 3rd day. He was a quiet man, not unfriendly, just quiet in the way of people who have spent decades doing work with their hands and have learned that most things do not require commentary. He had a photograph of his wife on the rolling table beside his bed. She was laughing in the photograph, the kind of laugh that closed her eyes. Nora came in on that 3rd morning to check his vitals, and he watched her work. And then he said, "You have been doing this a long time," she said. 14 years. He nodded like that meant something specific to him. She finished what she was doing and was about to leave when he said, "Can I ask you something?" She stopped. He said, "Are you okay?" She stood there for a moment with her hand on the door. No one had asked her that, not in months. Not really. People asked how she was, and she said fine, and they nodded and moved on, because fine was the answer the world was built to accept. But this man, this quiet man with his steady voice and the photograph of his laughing wife, had asked her something different. He had asked if she was okay, and there was a weight in how he asked it that suggested he already suspected the answer. She said, "I am fine, but thank you." She left the room. She walked to the supply closet at the end of the hall and stood inside it for 3 minutes with the door closed. She was not fine. She had not been fine for a very long time. She went back to Garrett's room every day that week, checked on him more than was strictly required. They talked sometimes briefly about small things, about what kind of wood he used to prefer working with, about the hospital food, which he ate without complaint, but with the expression of someone performing a civic duty, about his wife, whose name was Ruth, who had made soup from scratch every Sunday for 31 years, and who, according to Garrett, had laughed at things other people did not even notice were funny. He talked about Ruth the way you talk about someone who is still very much present. Not past tense exactly. More like temporarily in the other room. Nora listened. She was good at listening. On his 9th day, Garrett said something that she has thought about many times since. He said, "You know what I noticed about you? You make people feel like they are the only person in the building. But I watch you in the hall, and I do not think anybody does that for you." She did not respond right away, he said. "I am not trying to pry. I just think somebody should say it." She said, "I am okay." He looked at her. He said, "Okay." The way he said okay was not agreement. It was more like patience, like he was willing to wait. She left the room again. This time she did not go to the supply closet. She went to the break room and she poured a cup of coffee she did not drink. And she stood at the window that looked out over the parking lot, and she thought about what he had said. She thought about all the people she had sat with in their worst moments. The hands she had held. The names she had learned. The 4 extra minutes she stayed. The blinds she opened or closed, the way she had made it her life's work, without ever consciously deciding to make sure that no one in her care felt invisible. She had given that to hundreds of people. She had never once given it to herself. Garrett was discharged on a Thursday, 2 weeks after he arrived. His son had driven up from Tennessee to take him home. She saw them in the hall. Garrett moving slowly with his son holding his elbow, and he spotted her and raised one hand. She raised hers back. That was the last time she saw him. He died 6 weeks later. She found out through a colleague who had seen the notice. Peaceful, apparently. At home. His son with him. She sat in the break room when she heard, and she felt the specific weight of someone being gone. Not devastation, something quieter. The particular sadness of a person who touched your life briefly and exactly enough. She thought. He asked me if I was okay. She thought. I never answered him honestly. She thought. I am still not answering honestly. 3 months ago, on a Tuesday morning in September, Nora was standing in the hallway outside room 11 when it happened. She was holding a chart. The hallway was doing its normal things. Voices, movement, the sound of a monitor going steady somewhere down the corridor. Everything exactly as it always was. And she could not move. Not a dramatic collapse. Not a scene. She just stopped. Stood there with the chart in her hands and her feet on the floor. And she could not make herself take another step. Not because she was physically unable. Because something inside her simply refused, like a door closing. Like a system that had been running on emergency power for 20 months. Finally going quiet. Her colleague, a nurse named Donna, who had worked the floor with her for 3 years, noticed first. Dana came to her and said her name and touched her arm. And Nora looked at her, and what she saw in Dana's face was not alarm exactly. It was recognition. Like Dana had been waiting for this, like she had seen it coming from far off. Dana walked her to a chair. The charge nurse was called. Then the nursing supervisor. There was a conversation that Nora was present for but did not fully process. The way you do not fully process things when the part of you that handles processing has gone offline. They told her she needed to go home. She did not argue. That was perhaps the clearest sign of how far she had come undone. Nora Callahan did not leave shifts early. Nora Callahan did not hand things off. Nora Callahan finished what she started and did not ask for accommodations and managed always, because managing was the only mode she had ever learned. She did not argue. She got her things from the locker room and she walked to her car and she sat in the driver's seat and she did not start the engine for a long time. The nursing supervisor had mentioned carefully that the hospital had an employee assistance program, that there was no shame in using it, that a lot of nurses, especially after the past few years, were finding that they needed support they had not needed before. She had handed Nora a card with a number on it. Nora had put the card in her pocket. She had not looked at it since. The leave started the next day. 30 days, they said. Use it. Really use it. She went home. She had not been home during daylight hours on a weekday in longer than she could remember. The apartment felt different in the afternoon light. Smaller, more specific. She could see things she did not usually see. A water stain on the ceiling above the couch. The way the light came through the kitchen window at 3 in the afternoon and hit the floor in a long rectangle. She sat on the couch. She did not turn on the television. She did not reach for her phone. She just sat there. And for the first time in 20 months, there was nowhere she was supposed to be. The first few days of leave were strange in a way she had not anticipated. She had imagined in the abstract that if she ever had time off, she would feel relief. Rest, the deep exhale of someone finally allowed to put down something heavy. She did not feel that. She felt exposed. She felt like someone who had been moving so fast for so long that stopping felt not like rest, but like falling. Like the motion had been the only thing keeping her upright. And now without it, she was confronting a stillness that had things in it she had been successfully outrunning for the better part of 2 years. She did not know what to do with the hours. She cleaned the apartment. It was already clean. She cleaned it again. She made a grocery list and went to the store and came home and stood in the kitchen looking at the bags and realized she did not know what she wanted to eat. She had been eating whatever was fastest, whatever required the least decision, for so long that she had lost access to the information of preference. She did not know what she liked anymore. This small thing standing in the kitchen not knowing what she wanted for dinner undid her more than any of it. She sat down on the kitchen floor. She did not cry. She wanted to cry. She could feel the pressure of it, that old familiar pressure. But nothing came. The system that produced tears had apparently been shut down along with everything else. She sat on the floor and pressed her back against the cabinet and breathed. She thought about Garrett. She thought about how he had asked her, quietly, with no agenda, if she was okay. She thought about the way she had said fine so automatically, so smoothly, that she had not even felt the lie. She thought, what if someone asked me right now on this floor? What would I say? She sat with that question for a long time. Then she said it out loud into the empty kitchen, to no one and to whoever was listening. She said, I am not okay. 3 words. The simplest truth she had spoken in longer than she could remember. She said it again. I am not okay. And then, because she was on the floor of her kitchen and she had 30 days of leave and nowhere to be and nothing left to manage, she said the rest of it. All of it, in the messy, unedited, unpretty way that she had never allowed herself before, about the exhaustion, about the marriage and what Derek had said, and the part that was true, about her grandmother's funeral when she was 7 and her mother's hand on her shoulder and learning, in that moment, to make herself smaller, about the hundreds of patients she had held and stayed with and cared for, about Garrett, about the fact that she could not cry at her own kitchen floor, could not access her own grief, could not find the part of herself that felt things all the way down. She talked for a long time. Some of it did not make sense. Some of it she had never put into words before, had not known was there, until the words came out, and she heard them and thought, yes, that is the thing. She did not know if anyone was listening. But she did not stop, because this, she understood somewhere underneath all her training and her competence and her learned smallness, was the truest thing she had ever done. Not the years of steady hands and extra minutes and remembered names. This sitting on the floor and saying, I am not okay, and meaning it all the way down. And in the silence that came after, something shifted. Not a voice, not a sign, not anything she could point to. Just a feeling, very quiet, very steady, like a hand placed gently on the top of her head. Like something saying, I know. I heard you. I have been hearing you, all of it, every parking lot, every 3 in the morning. Every prayer you were ashamed to call a prayer. I heard you. She sat on the kitchen floor until the light through the window moved, and the rectangle on the floor stretched and went gold and then went away. Then she stood up. She did not feel fixed. She did not feel saved in any dramatic sense, but she felt, for the first time in 20 months, like she was actually in the room, like she was present in her own life. Like the glass that had been between her and her own experience had developed, somewhere in the last hour, a crack small. But there. She looked at the card the nursing supervisor had given her. She had set it on the kitchen counter when she emptied her pockets that first day. She had been not looking at it for 9 days. She picked it up. She read the number. She put it back down. She was not ready yet, but she knew now that ready was something that could come. She knew now that the door she had been standing in front of for months, the one she was never sure anyone lived behind, was not empty. Something was there. She could not name it yet. She did not try. But for the first time in 20 months, she did not turn away from it either. She sat with it instead. Just that. Just sitting in the kitchen with the light gone and the card on the counter, and whatever this was settling quietly around her, like something that had been waiting a long time for her to hold still. She was not ready yet, but she was no longer running. And those were not the same thing. Day 9 of leave. Nora woke up without an alarm. Not at 5:12, not at 3 in the morning. She woke up at 7:42 with the light already coming through the curtains. Real light, the kind that means the day has been going for a while without her, and for a moment she lay there and let that be true. She did not reach for her phone. She did not run through a mental checklist of what needed to be done. She just lay there and let the light be light and the morning be morning. This was, for Nora Callahan, a radical act. She had spent the first 8 days of leave in a kind of suspended state. Not resting exactly. More like a snow globe that someone had shaken and set down. Everything still unsettled, still moving, but the motion was slowing, the way it has to before things can settle back to where they belong. She had cleaned the apartment again. She had taken walks that had no destination, just out and back. Through neighborhoods she barely knew. past houses with autumn leaves still on the lawns and porch lights left on in the daytime. She had cooked things, real things, not just whatever required the least effort. She had made soup from a recipe she found in a cookbook she had bought years ago and never opened. She had eaten it at the kitchen table instead of standing over the sink. Small things. But she was beginning to understand that it was always small things, that the large shifts in a life are made entirely of small things that look, from the outside, like nothing at all. On the morning of day 9, she made coffee, and she stood at the kitchen window, and she looked at the yard below, and she did not feel the pressure in her chest that had been there every morning for 20 months. It was not gone, but it was different, quieter, like something that had been shouting had decided, finally, to sit down. She took her coffee to the bedroom closet. She had been meaning to reorganize it since she moved in. 17 months, and she had never done it. The top shelf was a row of boxes she had moved from the house in Bloomington, packed in the specific chaos of someone who is leaving quickly and does not want to feel what they are doing. She had put them up there and not looked at them since. She started with the one on the end. Winter things. A scarf she had forgotten she owned. Gloves with the tags still on. A sweater Derek had given her one Christmas that she had not donated because she could not decide what it meant to donate it, but had not worn because she could not decide what it meant to wear it. She set it aside. She would figure it out later, or she would not. Either way, the second box was books and miscellaneous things she had not known where to put. The third box was at the back of the shelf and smaller than the others. A shoebox, actually, with a piece of masking tape across the top that said, in her own handwriting from years ago, "Keep." She did not remember packing it. She took it down and sat on the edge of the bed and opened it. Inside was the particular archaeology of a life before. A life she had packed away so completely she had almost forgotten it had existed. There was a photograph of her and her father at the Indiana State Fair. She could not have been more than 10 in the photograph. She was holding something on a stick, probably food, and laughing at something outside the frame. Her father was looking at her, not at the camera. The expression on his face was one she had not thought about in years. Pure, uncomplicated delight at the existence of his daughter. She held the photograph for a long time. There was a small pin from her nursing school graduation, a birthday card from her grandmother. The last one, the handwriting already shaky by then. A ticket stub from a concert she had gone to with her college roommate, some band they both loved, standing in the rain for 3 hours and not caring at all. And at the bottom of the box, folded into quarters and soft at the creases from being folded and unfolded many times, a piece of notebook paper. She recognized it before she opened it. She had written it in 10th grade, an English assignment, Mrs. Patterson's class. The prompt had been, "Who do you want to be?" Not what do you want to do, not what do you want to have. Who do you want to have? Who do you want to be? She unfolded it carefully. The handwriting was hers, but younger, rounder. The letters more deliberate, the way handwriting is before it becomes automatic. She read. The girl who had written this essay was 16 years old and had not yet learned to make herself small. She had not yet stood at her grandmother's funeral and been told that Callahans do not fall apart. Or maybe she had. Maybe it had already happened by then. But it had not yet reached all the way in. There was still something in this girl that believed, without qualification, that she was allowed to take up space. The essay was not sophisticated. It was earnest in the way that 16-year-olds are earnest before the world teaches them that earnestness is a liability. She wrote about wanting to be a person who made people feel less alone, not in a professional sense, though she already knew she wanted to go into medicine. In a human sense, she wrote, "I want people to feel like they matter, like someone actually sees them. Not because it is my job, because I think that is what people need most, and it is something anyone can give if they decide to." Nora sat on the edge of the bed and read those words, and something in her chest broke open. Not painfully, or not only painfully. More like a window being opened in a room that had been closed for a very long time, because she had done it. That was the thing. She had become exactly who the 16-year-old girl with the round handwriting had wanted to become. She had spent 14 years making people feel seen, making people feel like they mattered, staying 4 minutes longer, learning the names of the dogs in the photographs, sitting beside the man who was ashamed of his anxiety and saying, "Your heart was telling you something," holding the hand of Garrett and listening to him talk about Ruth. She had spent 14 years living out the answer to that essay. For everyone else, the 16-year-old who wrote it had not specified. She had simply written anyone. And Nora, somewhere along the way, had quietly removed herself from that word. She sat there with the paper in her hands. Outside the window, the November light was doing something beautiful, the kind of thing you only notice when you are still enough to see it. The way it came through the oak tree at the edge of the yard and moved on the ground below, slow and golden and not asking anything of anyone. She let herself cry. Finally, not the managed, functional kind of emotion she allowed herself at work, when it was appropriate. Not the polite tearing up that could be blinked away. Real crying, the kind that comes from somewhere below the chest, that has been waiting, that arrives with its full weight. She cried for her grandmother, for the funeral she had gotten through dry-eyed and composed, and had never actually let herself grieve. She cried for the girl in the essay who had believed so completely in her own worth. She cried for Derek, not because she wanted him back, because she understood now what he had been trying to reach, and she wished. Not with guilt, but with something more like sorrow, that she had known then how to let him. She cried for Garrett, for the question he had asked her that she had not answered. She cried for herself for the 20 months of parking lots and cold coffee. "And I am fine," said so many times, it had become its own language. For the 7-year-old at the funeral, for every door she had locked so carefully that she eventually forgot there was anything worth locking away. She cried for a long time. And when she was done, she sat there with the essay still in her hands and the light still moving on the ground outside. And she felt, for the first time in as long as she could remember, like the room she was sitting in actually contained her. All of her. Not just the useful parts. Not just the parts that functioned. All of it. She thought about something she had said in the parking lot once. In the dark in February, when she was so tired she could barely hold her head up. She had said, "I do not know who I am anymore." She had said it as a confession, as a failure. But sitting here now on the edge of the bed with the photograph and the essay and the birthday card from her grandmother, she understood something different. She had not lost herself. She had packed herself away, in boxes, on high shelves, in places she did not look because looking was too hard, and surviving required all her available resources. But she was here. She had been here the whole time, waiting. The way things wait when they belong to you. Patient in the way that only the truest things can be patient. She picked up her phone. She found the card the nursing supervisor had given her. She had put the number into her phone that night in the kitchen after she sat on the floor and said, "I am not okay," into the empty room. She had typed it in but had not saved it. She had left it sitting there in her recent calls, unused. She looked at it now. She thought about what it would mean to call, what she would say, how it would feel to sit across from someone whose entire job was to ask her how she was and actually wait for the real answer. She thought about how foreign that felt. She thought about how necessary it was. She pressed call. The phone rang twice. A voice answered. Professional. Calm. The kind of voice that is trained to make silence feel acceptable. Nora said, "My name is Nora Callahan. I was given this number by my employer. I think I need to make an appointment." Simple, clean. 9 words passed her name. But what those 9 words cost her, what they represented, the architecture of walls she had to walk through to get to them, was not simple at all. She hung up with an appointment for Thursday at 10. She sat with the phone in her lap. She thought about all the people she had looked at across a hospital bed and said, "You do not have to do this alone." She had meant it every time. She had believed it every time. It had never occurred to her that the statement was also addressed to her. Thursday morning, she drove to an office building 12 minutes from her apartment, 2nd floor. A waiting room with chairs in neutral colors, and a small table with magazines that no one was reading, and a window that looked out over a parking lot. She sat down. There were 2 other people in the room, a woman older than her, maybe mid-70s, with her coat still buttoned and her hands folded in her lap, and an expression of quiet dignity. A younger man in a work jacket, looking at the floor, turning his phone over and over in his hands. Nora looked at them. She thought, "We are all here carrying something." She thought, "None of us want to be seen carrying it." She thought, "We came anyway." And something about that. The simple fact of it, these 3 people in a neutral-colored room who had all decided against their pride and their training, and whatever voices in their heads said that needing help was a form of failure that they were going to try. Something about that moved through her chest like warmth. This was not weakness. This room was not a room of broken people. This was a room of people brave enough to stop pretending. Her name was called. She stood up. She walked through the door. She sat across from a woman with kind eyes and a notepad and the particular stillness of someone who is genuinely prepared to listen. The woman said, "What brings you in today?" Nora opened her mouth, and for the first time in as long as she could remember, she did not say fine. She said, "I have spent my whole career making sure other people do not feel invisible, and I think somewhere along the way I disappeared myself, and I would like to find my way back." The woman with the kind eyes wrote something on her notepad. Then she looked up. She said, "That is a good place to start." 3 weeks later, Nora went back to the hospital parking lot, not to a shift. She was not back yet. But she drove there one evening as the light was going. Parked in her usual spot, 3rd row, 2nd from the end, and sat. The sky was doing that thing it does in Indiana in late November. Going from blue to purple to a dark that comes fast and total. The hospital was lit up the way it always was. A few people moving in the lobby beyond the glass doors, a life continuing in there. The way it always continued, with or without her. She sat there, and she did not feel empty. She felt, for the first time in this parking lot, like she was here on purpose, not running from something, not talking to a door. She was not sure anyone lived behind. She knew now that someone was there. She had known it before, in some partial, flickering way, on the worst nights when the words she said were not prayers, so much as just sounds made by a person who had nowhere else to put what she was feeling. But she knew it differently now. Not because anything had been proven to her. Not because of a sign or a voice or an event that she could point to. because of a shoebox on a high shelf, because of a 16-year-old girl who had believed, without being taught to, that she was worth knowing, because she had sat on a kitchen floor and said, "I am not okay," and the world had not ended, because she had walked into a room with neutral-colored chairs and said, "I disappeared myself," and someone had listened. Because she was here now, in the dark, in November, and she was not running. She was sitting, she was breathing. She was, for the first time in a very long time, actually present in her own life. And then, in the stillness, she heard it. It said, the way it had always spoken to her, not in thunder. Just steady, just close. I was here. Every night you drove here and did not know why. Every prayer you were ashamed to call a prayer. Every "I am fine" that cost you something. I was in all of it. I never left. You were never too quiet for me to hear. I saw the girl at the funeral holding her grief in because she was told to. I saw the nurse who gave everything to strangers and saved nothing for herself. I saw you on the floor of your kitchen saying, "I am not okay." That was not weakness. That was the bravest thing you had ever done. I arranged the parking lot. I arranged Garrett and the question he asked. I arranged the shoebox on the high shelf, and the morning you finally stayed still long enough to open it. None of it was accident. All of it was me reaching into your ordinary life and saying, "I see you." Not the version you show the world. You, the real one. You do not have to be fixed to be loved. You just have to be here. And that has always been enough. Nora sat with that for a long time. The sky went fully dark. The hospital stayed lit the way it always did. Someone in there was having the worst night of their life. Someone in there was holding a hand that needed holding. The work continued. It always continued, and she would go back. She knew that now. Not because she had to, because she wanted to. Because the girl who wrote that essay at 16 had meant it completely, and that girl was still in her, had been in her the whole time, packed away in a shoebox on a high shelf, waiting with the particular patience of something that knows it belongs to you. She started the engine. She drove home. She made dinner at the kitchen table and ate it slowly, and did not look at her phone and did not think about tomorrow. And in the morning, when the light came through the curtains earlier than she expected, she did not reach for the alarm that was no longer set. She just lay there and let it find her. And it did.